generations, Bugatti has been more than a name. It has been a benchmark for precision, a benchmark for craftsmanship, a benchmark for what should never be compromised. Every Bugatti is built with the belief that perfection is not optional. It is required. This is a machine created under one principle. Nothing, absolutely nothing, should disturb its integrity.
The CEO of Bugatti personally slid into a YouTuber's DMs to shut down his car rebuild. A $3 million Bugatti was totaled, bought back from a salvage auction, and a mechanic was determined to rebuild it without the manufacturer's blessing. What happens when a car brand goes to war with a content creator? And why is this story bigger than just one wrecked Bugatti? Join us as we find out why car brands are declaring war on YouTubers. The car, the crash, and the wall.
You don't want to sell me fucking parts, huh? Bugatti, you don't want to sell me parts. Okay, no problem. You know, I've been a follower of Bugatti. I've been a brand representative of Bugatti for a very long time.
Alex Gonzalez crashed his Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport while performing a stunt, and the damage was catastrophic. The entire front end of the car was destroyed, the hood was gone, and at least one airbag had deployed. Beneath the visible damage, the gearbox housing was shattered, compromising the drivetrain, and the carbon fiber monocoque had taken a direct and severe hit. The monocoque is engineered to absorb and distribute crash forces, so damage at this level is not just a repair challenge. It is a fundamental threat to the car's structural integrity. Any mistake in fixing it could compromise safety and performance. The scale of the loss becomes even clearer when the rarity and exclusivity of the vehicle are considered. Bugatti produced only 60 Chiron Pure Sport in total, making it one of the rarest production cars in the world. Each car left the factory with a price tag of roughly $3 million, reflecting not only extreme performance, but also hand-built craftsmanship, advanced engineering, and bespoke materials. The Chiron Pure Sport is not simply a high-speed hypercar. It is a lighter, more agile, and track-focused version of the standard Chiron. It features a tuned suspension, improved aerodynamics, and weight reduction measures that enhance precision and responsiveness on the road and the track. The fact that one of only 60 ever built ended up on a salvage auction platform underscores the severity of the crash. Copart is an online marketplace where insurance companies sell vehicles deemed total losses due to accidents or structural damage. Gonzalez had already accepted the insurance payout for the crash, but then chose to repurchase the wreck himself. This unusual decision set the stage for a rebuild attempt outside factory oversight, a process complicated by the car's extreme rarity and technical complexity. He was not a mechanic and was not primarily known for automotive work. He ran a large finance and forex trading content channel and has experience building an online audience and turning events into compelling stories. Buying back a destroyed Bugatti with the intention of rebuilding it publicly aligned with that approach. To carry out the rebuild, he partnered with Armstrong, a British YouTuber known for purchasing wrecked supercars and restoring them. Armstrong had previously rebuilt Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and McLarens, but a Chiron Pure Sport represented a significant step up. Rebuilding one of only 60 examples in front of a large audience appeared, in theory, to be a strong project. However, Bugatti intervened by locking the car's VIN. When a VIN is blacklisted, dealerships worldwide are prevented from supplying parts, diagnostics, or technical support for that specific vehicle. This left the rebuild without access to the official supply chain and without a clear path to obtaining essential components. This type of digital control is not unique to this situation. Manufacturers have used similar measures for years to ensure that severely damaged vehicles either return to the factory for proper repair or remain off the road. In most cases, owners facing such restrictions do not have a public platform, and the issue attracts little attention. Armstrong, however, was documenting the process for millions of viewers. Bugatti's official position was that the Chiron was too complex and too safety-critical to be rebuilt outside its factory in Molsheim, France. The engineering tolerances, integrated systems, and technical dependencies require factory oversight. The company stated that it was prepared to repair. The quoted cost for the factory rebuild was $1.7 million, which Gonzalez declined. After paying millions for the car and then repurchasing the wreck from Copart, an additional $1.7 million was not financially realistic. He chose instead to address the situation publicly and draw attention to the issue online, the ultimatum, the DM, and the unblacklisting.
Now, one thing Bugatti didn't think we were able to do is separate the front end of the car from the rear. There's only 2 places in the world that can do it.
Gonzalez made the situation public and gave Bugatti 24 hours to remove the blacklist from the car's VIN. He stated that if the restriction was not lifted, he would 3D print every replacement part himself. He was not an engineer or a specialist in automotive manufacturing. He ran a large finance and forex content channel and understood how to attract attention and apply public pressure. The statement was not a detailed technical plan for reproducing a carbon fiber monocoque. It was a calculated move designed to force a response in a space where the company could not easily ignore it. From a technical standpoint, the threat was not realistic. The gearbox housing requires extremely precise manufacturing that consumer or workshop-level 3D printing cannot achieve. The monocoque is a structural carbon fiber component produced in specialized facilities using advanced processes. The lighting systems, body panels, and other integrated components also depend on manufacturing standards and tolerances far beyond what basic additive manufacturing can deliver. The proposal was bold, but it was not grounded in practical engineering. Despite that, it achieved its purpose. The response did not come through a press office or legal department. Mate Rimac, the chief executive of Bugatti, contacted Gonzalez directly. He introduced himself clearly and explained point by point why the 3D printing idea would not meet the required specifications for the gearbox, the monocoque, the body panels, and the lighting systems. The tone was factual rather than dismissive. He then offered a constructive path forward. He explained that Bugatti wanted to find the most cost-efficient solution rather than automatically pursue the most expensive option. If the structural damage proved less severe than initially believed, the final repair cost could be significantly lower than the figures circulating online. He asked for the opportunity to assess the car properly before assumptions led to an irreversible outcome. Gonzalez shared part of this message publicly, and the reaction was immediate. It was rare for a chief executive of a major automotive brand to personally reach out in that way to resolve a dispute. The direct communication felt more personal and transparent than a formal statement would have, and it shifted public perception. Bugatti removed the blacklist from the car, and Gonzalez confirmed that a direct phone call with Rimac was being arranged. For a brief period, it appeared that the situation might be resolved through direct discussion between the owner and the manufacturer, allowing the public conflict to settle. However, the broader issue had not disappeared. Before the private exchange, there had already been widespread public claims about repair costs, parts access, and whether a Chiron could realistically be rebuilt outside the factory system. The rebuild project had already reached millions of viewers, cementing a narrative that a private conversation could no longer undo. Recognizing the public stakes, Rimac decided his next move would be made openly, not behind closed doors. Having followed Armstrong's rebuild videos in detail, tracking repair estimates, parts sourcing, and the step-by-step plan shared with millions, Rimac decided to address the situation directly and publicly. He had clear, specific points to raise, and this time he was prepared to address them publicly and in detail. Rimac had specific points to make about what had been misrepresented, and he was prepared to address them in detail. What exactly had been misrepresented, and how serious were the implications? Rimac goes public.
Let's do a little bit of myth-busting today. There's been lots of talk online about Bugatti service, repair and maintenance costs recently online, and most of what you hear is simply not true. Yes, Bugattis are very expensive cars.
Mate Rimac posted a video on Instagram that directly responded to Matt Armstrong's rebuild content. It was not a general brand statement. He addressed specific claims one by one, calmly and in detail.
But we really care about the running costs because we want these cars to be around in 50 years, 100 years like old Bugattis are today still. And in order to make people use those cars, it can't be crazy expensive to run them.
Explaining what he believed had been presented inaccurately. He began with the repair costs. In Armstrong's videos, certain prices were described as extremely high. Rimac said some of those figures were incorrect and overstated. He used the headlights as a clear example. A widely shared number claimed that a set cost 150,000 euros. Rimac stated that the actual price was closer to 50,000 euros. Still a very large amount, but far lower than what had been reported. He explained that parts for a Bugatti are expensive because the development and certification process costs tens of millions of euros. That investment is then spread across a production run of only a few hundred cars. When a manufacturer builds 500 vehicles instead of hundreds of thousands, each part carries a much higher share of the development cost. He then addressed the idea of 3D printing replacement components. Bugatti does use 3D printed parts in certain areas, including some suspension components, so the technology itself is not dismissed. However, he explained that the parts required for this rebuild, such as structural panels, headlight assemblies, and gearbox housings, fall into a completely different category. These components are load-bearing and safety-critical, and current 3D printing methods cannot reliably produce them to the necessary standards. There was a major difference between printing a small bracket and manufacturing a structural component that had to perform correctly in a crash. The discussion then moved to airbags. Armstrong had noticed that some Bugatti airbag part numbers matched those used in an Audi A3, which suggested that the parts might be interchangeable and therefore available at a lower cost. Rimac disagreed. He explained that even if part numbers appear similar, the specifications and performance requirements can differ significantly depending on the vehicle. Airbag systems are calibrated to work with specific crash structures, deployment timings, and overall vehicle dynamics. In a car producing over 1,400 horsepower, assuming that parts can simply be swapped based on part numbers alone could create serious safety risks. He also gave an example of why factory-level testing matters. During cold weather testing of the Bugatti Tourbillon at -20°C, engineers discovered that the leather on the dashboard became stiff enough in extreme cold to interfere with proper airbag deployment. The airbag could not clear the trim panel as intended. As a result, Bugatti had to redesign how the leather was treated during production and confirm the fix through repeated testing across different temperatures. This type of issue, he explained, is identified through controlled development programs, not in a private garage. Throughout the video, Rimac said he respected Armstrong's work and followed the rebuild project. He expressed willingness to help as someone who shares an interest in cars. However, he stated that Bugatti could not support or endorse a repair that did not meet factory standards, not only for the current owner, but for future owners as well. The company's goal, he said, is to ensure that its cars remain functional for decades to come. He then made a direct point about the broader situation. Bugatti had formally offered to repair according to factory standards, and Gonzalez had declined. Rimac suggested that the decision may have been influenced more by the value of the online content than by the car itself. Armstrong's rebuild video had reached 6.8 million views in just 4 days. Mate Rimac had openly suggested that Gonzalez rejected a proper factory repair to keep the online content alive, and that claim was now being watched by millions. It was no longer a private disagreement, it was a public challenge. Rimac had made his position public and his accusation specific, and Armstrong had been watching every second of it. Whether he would absorb that quietly or come back with a position of his own was the question the story now needed to answer. Armstrong doesn't back down. Matt Armstrong posted a response video addressing the situation. He explained that it was astonishing to him.
Matt Rimac has officially responded as to why he is not selling his parts to my Bugatti Chiron rebuild. Now, Matt Rimac, do not take this personal. This is simply my response to your safety arguments directly.
That the CEO of Bugatti had been following his videos closely enough to respond publicly. The scale of attention was unexpected, and he was candid about being caught off guard. He clarified his position immediately.
First of all, I just want to let you know that I agree entirely with your statement that safety is the most important thing when driving such an expensive, luxurious, and powerful vehicle. When I got into this accident with the Bugatti Chiron, safety, the precautions that were made behind it, is what kept me safe.
There was no desire to start a conflict or embarrass the brand. The goal was simply to access parts and attempt the rebuild. Before discussing that, he addressed the core reason why the factory repair offer had been declined. The concern was both financial and practical. Sending the car to Molsheim for a full factory teardown carried a major risk of rapidly escalating costs. With each stage of disassembly, hidden damage could be revealed, adding significantly to the repair bill. On a car that had sustained severe structural impact, there was no fixed upper limit for these expenses. The initial factory estimate was already higher than what could reasonably be justified, and there was no guarantee that the final cost would remain manageable. Handing the car over to the factory meant accepting the possibility of unforeseen charges at every step of the process, turning the repair into a substantial financial gamble. This decision was calculated carefully, based on caution, risk management, and controlling costs, rather than being motivated by ego or the desire to create online content. Armstrong also made it clear that the rebuild would continue, but it would not attempt to reach factory standards. He acknowledged this openly, emphasizing the risks involved without minimizing them. The goal was to restore the car to a working state on the other side of the process, while taking full legal responsibility for the results and formally relinquishing any warranties. The only essential requirement for proceeding was access to the necessary parts, which would allow the project to move forward despite the limitations imposed by factory restrictions. The immediate next step involved splitting the car in half to inspect the gearbox and engine internals directly. Until that teardown, there was no definitive understanding of the internal damage. All previous assessments had relied on visible crash damage, known structural hits, and educated guesses. This inspection would determine whether the rebuild could continue or if it would fail. Armstrong had made no promises of an easy repair or a perfect result, and had stated the risks openly from the start. Bugatti maintained its position, Armstrong maintained his, and the car had been unblacklisted, yet no agreement had been reached. The rebuild remained stalled, parts were inaccessible, official support was absent, and the most critical question was what was actually broken inside the car. Before the rebuild could move forward, one part of the story had been largely ignored. Not the repair estimate, not the parts debate, but the real cost of owning a Bugatti over 4 years of ordinary use. Those figures are documented, and once they are revealed, the financial stakes of the entire situation become much clearer. There was one dimension of this dispute that had barely been examined: the documented 4-year cost of keeping a Bugatti Chiron Per Sport running. Those figures, once laid out, reframed everything. The real cost and why this was never just about one car.
But for now, we've got to work out how we're going to separate the car in half. Engine out the back, tub out the front. We're just going to have to attack it and start undoing bolts. But I think the first step is to get the side skirts off.
A Bugatti enthusiast in Singapore visited the brand's newly opened showroom and asked for a breakdown of the full 4-year service costs for a Chiron Per Sport. He then published the figures he received. These numbers are approximate, having been converted from Singapore dollars to Malaysian ringgit, and then to US dollars. They do not include taxes, labor, transport, or the cost of sending a Bugatti technician to a remote location. They provide the closest public estimate available, but they are indicative rather than confirmed. The first service occurs at 14 months or 16,000 kilometers. Engine oil, filter, coolant, and 16 drainage plugs cost $25,000. New front carbon ceramic brake discs and 3D printed calipers with titanium pad plates cost $59,000. Brake fluids, cables, and a full brake system service add another $59,000. A new set of lightweight rims, which require replacement every 14 to 16 months, costs $50,000. Tires are another major expense. Comfort spec tires from Pirelli and Michelin cost around $8,000 per set. Performance spec tires, the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2R, built specifically for the pure sport, cost $42,000. Between 42 and 48 months, the 4 Garrett turbochargers reach the end of their service life, costing $26,000 to replace. Air duct coolers cost $22,000. The fuel tank, made of vulcanized rubber with reinforced fabric layers, and Kevlar, costs $44,000. Engine tuning and calibration to restore the full 1,479 horsepower of the 8-liter W16 costs $29,000. Windscreen replacement is $60,000. Wiper blades cost $3,800. A full respray, which must be done by hand using specialized equipment, costs $55,000. Over 4 years of driving, total service costs range between $385,000 and $477,000 before taxes, labor, or travel for technicians. If the car is stored and not driven, maintenance costs are about $105,000 every 14 months. The service program includes a team of 10 Bugatti-trained technicians who can travel to the car anywhere in the world, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Loyalty discounts of up to 30% are available depending on the owner's history with the dealership. A 4-year unlimited mileage warranty is included and can be extended up to 12 years. The program applies to both the Chiron and the Veyron. Bugatti includes 4 years of complimentary service with every new car, a model that starts above $2.5 million. This context explains why Bugatti locks VINs, insists on factory-only repairs, and tightly controls who can work on a Chiron. Ownership is expensive, exclusive, and highly controlled. A rebuild outside the factory system was always going to be a conflict the moment one of these cars left that system. Armstrong's video reached 6.8 million views in 4 days. Most viewers will never own a Bugatti, yet the idea that a company can dictate what happens to something an owner paid millions for resonates widely. Gonzalez turned down Bugatti's official repair offer to keep the rebuild going on camera. Do you think that was the right call, or did he just turn a solvable problem into a much harder one for the sake of content? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.